Hey, it's Mark again. I'm gonna do a quick video here on my thoughts on the tech industry, just sort of some broad thoughts I have about the race for Nvidia cards and the chips going on. So, as we know, for the past year or more, there's been a huge race to get as many Nvidia H100s as possible, and there's even going to be better and better chips down the line. And there's already a better one that people are going to want to buy too. So the demand for Nvidia is going to keep up for a while. And if you look at Nvidia just on a revenue earnings perspective, not any other valuation metrics, the growth is still pretty fairly valued to undervalued. When you look at it just from revenue or earnings, because their growth could accelerate. Once smaller companies start getting into the chip race too, because a lot of the demand's been these large companies, and I assume there'll be chips that'll be better and even more affordable in the future. So, but my thoughts on the big tech companies buying them, it's like as far as we know, the biggest ones were last year were Meta, Microsoft, and maybe even OpenAI. Like I don't know, like I haven't seen any data on how much OpenAI has, but we can assume they have some of the large, like the most. Well, they're using, I mean, they're pretty much like using Microsoft's data centers as far as I know, but the um, but the race for these chips, you've had Meta had one of the highest stockpiles of H100s that they're probably going to use. And when you think about it, like why would Meta have that many H100s, which was pretty staggering amount compared to like the average company, even the tech companies. So why would they need that many? It's because they obviously must be planning to build a competitive, maybe even superior LLM, with Llama versus the OpenAI Chat GPT. And from everything that I've seen, because I've been following it fairly closely. I'm not like a tech head or anything, but the um, the llama models are really competitive with everything else out there, and even better. I think a lot of people think they're one of the best ones. Maybe even overall, the llama, because like ChatGPT, it's great. I mean, it's probably a tie between ChatGPT and llama from what I've seen. But like I'm saying, I'm not like the biggest like tech like I'm not like a tech engineer or anything, but from the reviews I've seen, the llama is pretty competitive on like a lot of benchmarks and everything. But the thing I was listening to some actual tech people that work in tech and that know people in tech, and they were saying that the llama models are going to be even more competitive with OpenAI, because the ChatGPT 4 vision is probably the best one, for what it does now. Um, so they're thinking that, or I guess they had like maybe like kind of like an inside scoop there on that Meta was gonna have a llama model that's multimodal, which is a big deal because if they do have the amount of chips, I mean, from what we know, that these LLMs they need a lot of H100s and a lot of fast video cards. You can't do what OpenAI does. Like in a small room or anything. So the competition there for Meta, um, it seems like a possibility that Meta can be competitive and maybe even in the future surpass OpenAI, which I would I'm only saying is possible possibly because they have so many Nvidia H100s. So I don't see why they would buy that many H100s if they didn't have a big plan. And it seems like Zuckerberg kind of thinks he he can think long term, and because like from what I know about him with the metaverse, he was thinking about the metaverse years ago, and he's probably like 40 years early on that actually, but the timing might be better for them now with the LLMs and all these having all these H100s. So that's kind of interesting. And you look at like since we can't buy OpenAI stock, right? OpenAI is not publicly traded. You can kind of get close to that with Microsoft because Microsoft is using we don't as far as I know they're sharing a lot of the same things like proprietary things. And of course like Dolly 3 the Copilot AI model is on Microsoft Windows, or in Bing. So you can get some exposure to what OpenAI is doing with Microsoft, but um, it's not going to give you the growth that OpenAI is expected to grow like 100%, like year over year. And but I think if the Meta Llama models are competitive, which it seems to be that they are, and they're just going to get better by just the fact that they have all these Nvidia cards, then it seems like the Meta stock could be way undervalued, because I mean imagine if they got all their commercial use from their API that ChatGPT does. That's like a huge market, and it's only growing too. Like we're still in the infant stages here of the LLMs and AI agents. Like the agents are kind of like just talked about, but stuff's gonna get more and more advanced. And I was looking at Meta stock, like I put that on my Twitter account. I was just looking at the technicals on it because they had their earnings call the other day, and the market responded really well to that, and it's just held up. Like it held that 450, 460 level really well, and it's basically just like a really thin trading range here. It's been in like a trading range, so those can be really explosive when they break out. So it looks like it's actually going to go already, and I tweeted out like the setup here and my kind of thesis on why they're gonna do better than the market thinks, possibly because they might have a competitive LLM model to OpenAI at some point. It's looking pretty good here. The stock, I mean, it closed actually above the high that it closed at on after the earnings call. So we're pretty much in breakout mode already here. Like the 485.96 was the high. Didn't quite get there for the break, but it closed above the close on the earnings after earnings. So that's something I'm watching. I think Meta is easily like kind of like like a high conviction kind of individual stock buy for the next few years or next couple of years at least. So we see what they're cooking with their models. So it looks like Nvidia will sell off today. But that's just kind of what I want to talk about was the setup there in Meta, because a lot of times after earnings, stocks can have really big follow through. I mean, it's basically consolidating, and like it's uptrending off that day. I mean, it could reverse, you never know, but because a lot of stuff's already up a lot, this year, but like it looks pretty good for a setup there. If I had to buy a tech stock, large cap tech stock right now, it'd be that one. Unless, there's major pullbacks in some of this stuff, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So the B1ND still, it's looking like it really wants to do something there. Like came back up to that level. Like that might it almost retested it, but it couldn't even retest. So it's already looks like it's on the move. The BYND. That's like a high short too. It's like 30%. Because it looked like it, was gonna retest when it came down off of that break, because it broke that downtrend line, and then it's got so much momentum it's not even retesting. And I was looking at the JMIA, like I traded this one in the past, and they had a huge pop today. I'm not sure what that was. I think it might have been earnings or some kind of news, obviously, because it traded 17 million shares, and it doesn't trade that much. The last time I traded that many shares was back in 2022, back in, looks like back here in May 2022. So yeah, it's on the move too. Like I was saying, there's a lot of these small caps that have kind of come down and found support levels. So it's got a lot of resistance there, about $5. So like the ones that Nvidia released that they had as holdings, like the SoundHound AI, that had kind of a lot of support there. And I'm still bullish on Hood. Looks like it's trying to hold that level. Yeah, Hood's got that major level there it's trying to hold. And it may do that. Like there's a lot of participation in small caps today. Like the IWM came back up again. The IWM and the Russell is kind of super manic depressive, over the past year or two. So let's see what the actual futures did, because yeah, it's not so great looking, but it did break, still breaking above. Like I was saying I put on my Twitter account, the Jets is moving too. It's not a technical breakout, but it came over that big level there that's been a level for a while. And yeah, that's about it that I looked at so far. So I just want to kind of talk about my thoughts on Meta and how it's probably one of the better large cap tech companies now. Like I realized something was going on with it last year, early in the year. Like you look at the way Meta was just accumulated steadily in the beginning of the tech rally, like back in especially in 2023 in January, and it was in a straight uptrend almost every week. I mean, it had a pullback in February, but that was it. And there's just something really obvious that was going on there with Meta, because it just had one of the more steady charts, even versus like Microsoft. I think Microsoft's had more ups and downs. Yeah, it was kind of choppy. Like it was down all the way into March too, and a pretty good pullback in April. But I mean, they're all pretty strong. But the way Meta was accumulated just kind of reminded me. It just looked like an algo, like a lot of algos on it. So we'll see here. I mean, we're above a major level, so I think it's like an all-time high. So yeah, it can easily keep going here, and I think it will. We've seen usually after it gaps up a lot, it has continues runs. Like, so that the gap up this time was huge. So Trying to find some more gaps and see what it does off of this, what it did. Yeah, the gaps haven't been like they were in the past year or two. We got a big gap down in 2022. I guess that was that surprise. I guess that probably the street didn't like all their capital spend, or I'm not sure. I didn't follow them that much then, but yeah, it's looking really bullish for Meta, fundamentally and technically. I could be wrong, and it could just come back down, and fill the gap, but I think over the next year or so, it's going to be a winner with all those Nvidia cards. So that's it. Yeah, that's what I want to talk about tonight. So I've set up a Twitter account just for all my tech stuff, like all the AI stuff and all that. So I'll put out links for that, like on my Twitter pretty regularly, just so everybody can go on that if you're one of the tech people that follow me. So I do follow tech pretty kind of closely, and I've got a separate Twitter account for that I'll put out. But if you haven't followed my main Twitter account, check that out. It's Stock Pursuit. It's just like my handle here on YouTube. It's Stock Pursuit with the underslash between Stock and Pursuit. So I put out a ton of stuff on there. So check that out if you haven't yet. So yeah, I was talking about coin, like the coin had a really good reaction to earnings, and it looks like if Bitcoin keeps going up, they're gonna be a winner too. So yeah, that's it. So let's call it a wrap on there, and I'll catch you next time.